Any concerns about signing a 50-year agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers?
Based on what I know about the agreement, which is quite a bit, I do not have a concern at this time, but I would have to actually read the agreement, which is not available yet to be read.
Liz, you stated that increasing police patrols, boosting outreach teams, and increasing the number of police will make Sarasota safer. Will you support increasing the millage rate to cover that extra expense?
I would support looking at other places in the budget to find that.
Okay. Stan? The city has an ongoing structural budget deficit that is seriously compromising its ability to deliver essential public services. And I'm going to ask you two questions. What, in your opinion, is the primary cause of the budget deficit? And the second question will be, what is the most effective policy action to deal with the budget? You may answer them together if you wish.
This is fundamentally a very easy question. You have revenues and you have expenses, and when they don't match, you have a deficit. You either cut your expenses or you raise your revenues. It's real simple.
Mm-hmm. Shelley, on the nylon report, you expressed opposition to the building of and the location of the State Street garage. Wouldn't disregarding the contract with Pineapple Square that mandated the building of that garage have exposed the city to a lawsuit?
Yes, but the pre-question is we didn't ask the right questions at the top of the agreement. At the time of the discussion stage, we should have discussed the budgetary issues and the fact that we were so over budget at the end of the process. I felt like the wrong questions were asked in the beginning. Okay. And with you, Shelley? Do you belong to your neighborhood association, and what roles have you played in that organization and CCNA? There was not a neighborhood association for my street. I've been active with the campaign with the Tallywood Association and have attended those meetings and expressed concerns to the other city residents as it relates to utilities, as it relates to traffic congestion for Beneva Road, and as it relates to development or overdevelopment of parks, but I have not held an official office. Have you interacted with CCNA? Yes. Okay. Stan?
I helped pull my neighborhood association out of the ditch. It had been dormant for about, I think, 8 years. And with the help of some other neighbors, we revitalized it. And frankly, just in time to man the ramparts for a huge development and unseemly development that came nearby. I was elected president of the Alta Vista Neighborhood Association. I subsequently was elected twice as chairman of the CCNA, the Coalition of City Neighborhood Associations.
Liz?
I'm in a condo, so I have a condo association instead of a neighborhood association, but I did serve on my condo association board. I started out serving on a design committee that was trying to look for ways to remodel our first floor lobby. Our building is 40 years old and nothing had been done in 40 years. And I was doing this at the same time I was going to law school and being on the Human Relations Board. And eventually I got onto the board and eventually became president. And during my tenure as president, we brought together our designer, our architect to present plans to the homeowners to make this change. And it was very controversial because in 40 years, not only had nothing been done, but there had never been an assessment in this building. And so there were many people who'd lived there 40 years and felt like it's good enough for us for these 40 years, why should we do something now? And they had been, there had been people on the board and on design committees for years trying to get this passed. When I was president, we managed to get it passed. We had many, many contentious meetings. It took 2 votes to get it done, but now we have a beautiful lobby. So yes, I got involved in my community.
Did you all interact with CCNA?
We did not. We had a representative to the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association, and from DeLacy, who was then vice president, was our representative to them.
Thank you. Eileen?
As I mentioned earlier, I was president of the board of the Berkey Homeowners Association, where we updated the documents legally. It was the first time that was successful in 50 years. We moved to a condo. I am a member of the condo association. I was the condo association representative to the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association, and then I was on the board of DISCO. Do I interact with CCNA? I've been attending it for years.
Okay. If you'll keep the microphone, Eileen. During the past 28 years, the city has used the CRA to divert $52.5 million taxpayer dollars to downtown development. During this period, the city has seriously underinvested in city parks, most notably the Lido Pavilion and Bobby Jones Golf Course. Should the city continue the CRA subsidizing downtown development at the expense of our city parks? This is essentially a yes, no, unless you're real particular.
I was going to say that's a multi-level question.
Yeah. Should the city continue the CRA?
You just want me to say yes? Should the city continue the CRA? Yes, it should, because it means $3.5 million from the county to the city, and therefore the city can actually divert funds to other things.
Mm-hmm.
But the CRA money must be spent in the CRA, within the CRA. It has very specific uses that can be made of it. It precluded spending it for Lido Pavilion, for instance. It's very hard to say that we would give up $3.5 million.
Okay, Liz?
I agree.
Stan?
At the risk of offending my constituents, I'm in favor of continuing the CRA, but I want you to understand, the CRA money coming from downtown is split up evenly between the Newtown CRA and the downtown CRA. My district is in neither area, so that the money you're talking about that's being held back from parks, held back from Bobby Jones and so forth, is fundamentally being held back from one district in my town, and that's the district I represent. But I'm still in favor of continuing the CRA because it is an enormous economic engine that has benefited the downtown enormously, and downtown is the heart of Sarasota County's economy. And therefore, cutting off the CRA would be a drastic mistake.
Thank you. Shelley?
Yes, in favor of continuing the CRA as the former chair and vice chair of the Community Redevelopment Advisory Act Board, along with Mr. Zimmerman, just pointing out that we are comparing apples and oranges. CRA dollars have to be used within the CRA district, and those don't impact some of the areas that were discussed in your question. However, there are other funds within the budget in terms of being fiscally responsible that we can use in terms of fees and extra taxes that we can use to divert to parks so that we can fill the void that's happened over the last 4 to 8 years.
Shelley, if you'll keep the microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you support the new charter for the city that was proposed last year?
Yes.
Stan?
Not only did I oppose it, but I've opposed 3 other attempts to impose a strong mayor on this city, and I did not support last summer's petition drive.
Thank you. Liz?
As I said, I listen to my clients and what they want. It was voted down 3 or 4 times before, so, it was kind of a moot point for me.
That means yes or no? Did you support it or not?
I just felt like it was not anything to even be concerned about because it wasn't going to pass, so,
Thank
it
you.
didn't matter whether I supported it or not.
Thank you. Eileen?
Not only not support it, I chaired the Citizens' Voice, which fought the initiative and which was successful.
Eileen, do you have a paid consultant running your campaign?
No, I see a lot of my husband, he's doing a lot of it, so far he hasn't charged me.
No. Liz?
Yes.
Stan?
I wish I did, but the answer is no.
Shelley?
Have a campaign manager, yes.
Thank you. Shelley, if you'll keep the microphone. City neighborhoods have complained that many developments are subject only to behind-the-scenes administrative approval rather than public hearings by the planning board and city commission. Now I've got 3 questions regarding that. Do you support changing the policy so that even more decisions are switched to administrative approval? This is yes or no?
Yes.
Do you support retaining the current policy? Yes or no?
Which policy?
The current policy regarding whether or not administrative approval is used.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I don't favor supporting
Okay.
the current policy.
Do you support changing the policy so that people are heard and more decisions are made in public by the elected representatives of the people?
Absolutely.
Stan? Do you support changing the policy so that even more decisions are switched to administrative approvals?
Can I take a small bit of time here on this question? Because it's much more than a yes or no question.
Okay.
Administrative approval is a relatively new wrinkle in the way the city is approving projects. And it's in effect an experiment right now.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some complaints, and admittedly, it's an experiment. There are things that could be tweaked and changed. But I can't say that I'm totally and adamantly opposed to administrative approval until this experiment gets to be tried a little bit, because it does retain some advantages.
So you would support retaining the current policy of experimentation?
Of experimentation and well open to any changes that may come out of that experiment.
Okay. What about changing the policy so that people are heard and more decisions are made?
As I said, and changing the policy as it appears to be warranted.
Okay. Liz?
I agree with Stan pretty much, that you've got to, you have to look at what is approved administratively and what is approved or should be brought before the general public for their input. Major things, absolutely. But I don't think every single change you would want to have come before the public if it's just a small minor thing that just really doesn't have a lot of impact on anybody else's property and it meets the code. So I mean, you have to look at what's being administratively approved. So I think they should experiment with it very carefully.
So you'd be for selective application of administrative approval?
Yes, depending on the circumstances, of course. I mean, if you have a big major project, yeah, the public ought to get some input in that.
Eileen?
All administrative approval cannot be done away with, or you'd need a small army in the planning department. However, there's been administrative approval creep over the years. Am I in favor of where it stands now? I'm unhappy with decisions that have been made based on administrative approval recently, so I would say most likely not. Should we do away with it entirely? You simply can't, unless, again, you bring in an army to check every single-family home.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends upon the size of the project. There was another question in there.
No, that answers.
That was it.
Go away. I understand. Thank you. Liz, in 2012, the International Dark Sky Association approved a model lighting ordinance developed by the Illumination Engineering Society of North America. It is designed to help municipalities develop outdoor lighting standards that reduce glare. light trespass, and sky glow. This is yes or no. Would you be willing to adopt an ordinance providing the establishment of responsible outdoor lighting standards within the city?
Can you start all over with that question, because I didn't understand even what group you were saying.
The International Dark Sky Association approved a model lighting ordinance developed by the Illumination Engineering Society of North America. It is designed to help municipalities develop outdoor lighting standards that reduce glare, light trespass, and sky glow. Would you be willing to adopt an ordinance providing the establishment of responsible outdoor lighting standards within the city?
Without seeing what's in the ordinance, I couldn't say, but what you're saying sounds to me like something that I could support. But obviously, I'm not going to say how I would vote on any ordinance without seeing what was in the ordinance.
This is for Shelley. Please address the sea level rise vis-a-vis the differences between sand renourishment and in response to specific storm damage and the building of dunes and landscaping.
I don't have in-depth knowledge about the sea level rise, so I'm not able to answer that part of the question. But from an engineering and structural standpoint, where I sit as a commissioner would be that we need to work closely together with the engineering department and our environmental department to ensure that any changes in zoning or rezoning don't have a negative impact on our neighbors in terms of moving ditches, dealing with lands that may be environmentally protected, or moving water lands that may end up impacting homes and neighborhoods.
Okay, Shelley, there have been several important decisions made by the current commission, and I'd like to clip through 3 of them and see yes or no whether or not you support them. Moving the IT department back to the city manager.
Yes.
Approving city payment of fees in the Sunshine lawsuit.
No.
Refusing to sell a city park and property to the Benderson Corporation.
Yes.
Adding sand to Lido Beach.
Yes.
Stan? Would you support moving the
Yes,
IT?
I have the questions here.
Okay.
Yes, the IT department has moved. I did not vote in support of that. Payment of city legal fees in defense of Sunshine suit, we've discussed that, and I brought that to the table, and I am in support of that. The sale of the parkland at Beneva and Fruitville to Benderson, the city was asked to change the future land use designation, and I voted along with all of the other commissioners against that. San Toledo is a federal issue. If you would to take away our sandy beaches, you will destroy our tourism.
Okay,
Sandy
thank you.
beaches are important to us.
Thank you. Liz? Do you support moving the IT department back to the city manager?
I support the IT department being in whichever department is going to provide good management. So it's just, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Do you approve the payment of the fees in the Sunshine lawsuit?
As we said, we already discussed that.
Do you support refusing to sell a city park and property to the Benderson Corporation?
Yes.
What about adding sand to Lido Beach?
Yes.
Eileen?
Well, I'm on the record as having voted for all of it. The IT being
Thank
with
you.
the city manager, the fees, the sand, and the land use park. I voted in favor of all of it.
And my last set of questions on one topic before we go to questions from the audience, beginning with Eileen. Considering your vision for the properties under consideration by Bayfront 2020, I've got 3 yes or no questions. Would you be willing to tear down the Van Wezel? That's a yes or no.
Oh, that's death by Van Wezel. I'm on record as saying you cannot have an opinion until you have all the specs. We don't have, we have aspirations at this point. We do not have the specifications required to decide what we would want there. We have to know who has leases.
That's not, it's your vision, not the city.
My vision is grounded in reality. And the reality is we have buildings there that exist, buildings with leases. We have view corridors. We have all kinds of issues that have not yet been discussed and vetted. And until that happens, I'm not going to say tear down the Van Wezel.
Do you believe the Moat Marine Aquarium should be located on this property?
I guess I'll find out when I know what's available.
Do you support a convention center on the site?
I do not.
And Liz? Would you be willing to tear down the Van Wezel?
Well, my answer is I'm not going to either give you a yes or no to any of these things until we have a master plan.
Okay, then I'll move on to the next question. Do you believe Moat Marine Aquarium should be located on this property?
I would like to see that. Do I know whether that's a good idea? I don't know yet until we know what the plans are, what it's going to involve, and what that's going to preclude.
Do you support a convention center on the site?
Same answer.
Stan?
I'm going to make the same comment that I made at the City Commission meeting when we were presented with the 2020's initial founding principles. I want them to come back to me and knock my socks off. I want something to be awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping, because if it's going to be the same old stuff, then we'll leave it the way it is. But I want something spectacular, and if it's spectacular enough to destroy the Van Wezel and to put up an awe-inspiring aquarium, whatever, yes, do it all, but don't give me the same old junk. Make me stand in awe of this project, and then I'll consider anything.
Shelley?
I think it's too early to have an opinion without considering the recommendations from the 2020 Vision Committee. They've talked about broad-based outreach, they've talked about artistic input, and they've talked about economic development. I'm interested in all three of those things.
Shelley, what would you do to, these are questions that have been submitted from the audience. What would you propose to do about the ridiculously low voter turnout in city commission elections?
I'd be knocking on doors tonight and talking to voters.
Again.
Stan?
Well, we can do what Greece did. We can, if you don't vote, you don't get a ration card. Or a driver's license. The fact is, we are all free to vote, to exercise the franchise. Compelling somebody to vote strikes me as being very anti-democratic. You can't drive if you don't vote. That'll get your turnout up. But what do you propose to use as a mechanism to force people to vote? I don't think that's very democratic at all.
I think the encouragement of voting should start